I sent you an email.
Nobody asked me.
I sent you an email.
It's your project. You just can't ask me if I want to.
Take your business.
The regular meeting of the South San Antonio Independent School District Board of Trustees will come to order. Today is April 17, 2019, and the time is 6 p.m. Could we please have roll call, Michelle?
Mrs. Manny Martinez.
Present.
Mr. Luis Ibarra Jr.
Here.
Mr. Homer Flores.
Here.
Ms. Shirley Ibarra Peña. Present. Mrs. Connie Prado.
Present.
Mr. Gilbert Rodriguez.
Present.
Mrs. Edna Flores. Present.
Thank you, Michelle. At this time, could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, Texas Pledge, prayer, and our call to action?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please bow your head in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, please guide our hearts as we conduct our district businesses. Help us to make the right decisions for the students of South San ISD. We ask this in your name. Amen. Amen. Call to action. All students with successful education experiences
convene into closed session. The board will convene into closed session. Closed meeting pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. Number one is discussion concerning personnel matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and the time is 6:02.
sir, we saw it coming.
And then I moved forward. I came back. I worked in a small district. I didn't work in a corporatized team. I worked in a district, it was Castro, 3,800 kids, and about 4,000 kids. It was good experience, I enjoyed it. Probably not in our district, no, not this weekend. We were kind of small, but whole, the square foot, square miles of the district, 75 square miles, was a little bitty. But we were surrounded by other districts, so we had all the little districts that were right around us.
Good, yeah.
The board will now reconvene into open session. Before we proceed with the agenda, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege, if I may. We have had 2 board meetings that have brought a huge amount of interest, of discussion, of debate, and participation by the general public and the Board of Trustees. The board meeting at Samoa Middle School and the recent board meeting at the administrative offices are the meetings that I'm referring to. The 3 issues which brought about this robust participation by the board and our guests in attendance were the mental health issues brought forward by our students, the Kazin Middle School plant utilization issue, and the reopening of Athens, Kazin, and West Campus High School. During these 2 meetings, I thought it would be best to allow this expression of free speech and participation. I also thought that it would be best to allow my board colleagues more latitude in making these decisions. The result of relaxing our board operating procedures and relaxing public participation brought about the appearance of confusion, lack of control, and failure to maintain order during the board meeting. It got to the point that our legal counsel felt compelled to intervene in an attempt to restore order. That is clearly not his job. It is my job as the presiding officer. If his intervention offended anyone because of my failure in doing my job, I would then extend my sincere apologies to those who felt offended. In fact, I take full responsibility for not maintaining order and not maintaining boardroom decorum. Having said that, it will not happen again. Let me repeat. Having said that, it will not happen again. I will now review the applicable board operating procedures that will resume at this board meeting and future meetings. I will also review the presiding officer's expectations of our guests in attendance at this board meeting and future meetings. Just as was commented on District Auditor at the last meeting, they don't know what the guidelines are. So we're going to go through that tonight. There is a notice of the regular meeting and all the meetings that are posted on the district website, and I will read from the public notice, and this is the public notice, and it reads, special notes, information on procedures followed on public comment and other Board of Trustees meeting components are presented on the next page. Members of the public are encouraged to review them before attending the meeting. The use of cellular phones and sound-activated pages are prohibited during meetings. And this is a special note that's constantly posted on the agenda. The next one is the same thing, but it's under disruption. And let me read that. The board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience or individual board members. Persons attending board meetings shall not delay, interrupt, or disrupt the proceedings or refuse to obey the orders of the presiding officer. Any disruption will result in a warning first, and then if a second time, it will result in immediate removal of members of the public and possible action of the board to remove disruptive individual, including board members, if necessary. The audience are welcome guests of the Board of Trustees. It is the responsibility of the Board of Trustees to conduct its business at board meetings. That is our primary function and obligation that we have. The meeting is held in order for the board to conduct its business. Everyone in attendance must take a seat. There will be no standing from the audience other than staff and those participating in the Citizens to be Heard segment. The audience will be allowed small signs that will be placed on their laps during the meeting. No raising of the signs will be allowed, and there will be no applause, either in favor of an issue or against an issue. Board operating procedures number 2, conducting board meetings. 2.1, during board meetings, board members will not carry on a debate among each other. All questions must be directed to the board president. When a trustee wishes to speak or to communicate any matter to the board or internal committee, the member shall address the board president or, as the case may be, the presiding officer. A trustee who desires to speak on a pending questions should address the president or presiding officer, and after having obtained recognition, may speak in an orderly way. Board members must be recognized by the board president before speaking. The board president must recognize each board member when a board member raises his or her hand, asking for the floor or asks to be recognized. 2.2, interruption of president or presiding officer. The president of the Board of Trustees or the presiding officer shall not be interrupted while putting a question or addressing the board. 2.3, no trustee shall interrupt another trustee who has the floor or otherwise interrupt the business of the Board of Trustees or internal committee, except for the purpose of making a point of order, moving the previous question, demanding that a point of order under discussion or consideration be immediately decided. 2.7, use of electronic devices prohibited. At no time during a board meeting, whether a regular or a special call meeting, and whether in open or closed session shall a board member use his or her cell phone or engage in texting. The use of phones or texting demonstrates a lack of respect for the proceedings and may, under certain circumstances, even be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. Board members will refrain from private discussions during any board meeting, whether in open or closed session. Board members will excuse themselves from the meeting to address any emergency. Thank you, board members. Thank you for letting me take this time. And now we will proceed to the superintendent's remark. Dr. Flores.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the folks that, as always, when we have meetings that are carried out remotely, there's always a lot of work that goes into it. Our technology department, our administrative assistant, maintenance, everybody that has to get involved to make these meetings happen. I always like to extend a huge thank you on behalf of the administration for all the hard work to make these meetings happen off-site. So thank you to all the folks who had a hand in getting this meeting successfully put together. The other thing that I do want to thank is all the community members that are in attendance today. Thank you very much for your participation and your engagement in our process, and so we're glad to have you here. On another note, I definitely also want to let everybody know that START testing season has officially begun, so we've gotten that off the ground successfully, might I add. All the campuses have gotten the testing process underway. It's always a stressful time because you have to follow very strict protocol, and you need to make sure that you don't have any kinds of occurrences or incidents that you have to report. So thankfully on our first round we didn't have anything that we needed to report to state. So very, I want to give kudos to the administrative team at every campus and at the central admin level for making it happen. On another note, I just want to let folks know that this Friday and the 19th and Monday the 22nd, the district will be closed in observance of the Easter holiday. And so please, if you're a student, don't come to school. We will not be open. All right. The other thing that I do want to let you know is that additionally, the following week on Friday, April 26th, we will also be closed due to the Battle of Flowers parade. And so we're going to celebrate that day as well. And on another note, we also will have our mighty Bobcat band will be participating. And then on top of that, our campus, our Southside High School, we had our top 15, is that correct, Michelle? Top 15 graduates? They will also be asked to participate in the parade as well. So if you can make it out there, please go out there and support our kids. Aside from that, I don't have anything else, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Okay, next is presentation of reports. Item number 1 is report on Goal 3 and Goal Progress Measures 3.1 and 3.2, percent of students performing at master's level in reading. Dr. Flores.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Shields. Thank you.
See if I can get close enough to make this work. Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Flores. Here we go. All right. So I'm here to report on Goal 3 and Goal Progress Measures 3.1 and 3.2, which are reading. Okay, Scott, can you work your magic? Okay, so a reminder of Goal 3 is about master's level performance. Our goal is to increase 2.4 percentage points each year from 8% to 20% by 2022. Our master's level performance last year was at 9%. Our goal for this year is 12.8%. So Goal Progress Measure 3.1 is focused on the master's level performance in grade 3. Our goal is to increase yearly by 2 percentage points from 12% to meet the goal of 20% by 2022. Our goal this year is 14%. And then 3.2 is focused on master's level performance of our 5th graders, and our goal for this year is 15.5%. So the data that I'm going to present to you, it comes from two different sources. So in K-5, we use iStation. iStation is an online assessment. The students not only use it it not only progress monitors them monthly, but they also get on it and it provides intervention customized to each student. So we do look at the data beginning, middle, and end of the year, but monthly, as the students log on, as the month rolls over, it automatically progress monitors the students. Then in grades 6 through 8, we are using measures of academic progress for reading, and it is also an online assessment, and we take it 3 times yearly as well. So let's look at elementary first, which is our iStation data. So I want to remind you about that iStation classifies the students into 3 different tiers. So the kind of bluish color that you're going to see in these graphs means that students are on level, on track to meet grade level expectations. So then the yellow is tier 2, and students are considered to be at risk some risk of not meeting grade level expectations. And then tier 3 is the red, and students are at significant risk of not meeting grade level expectations. Does look like this. Okay, so what I did was I showed you the first set of data when I reported earlier in the year. So this is the October data, and then I wanted to show you the mid-year data, which was the February data. So I did the English data from October, and then you can see the English data in February. So if you compare those 2 graphs, you can see that we did have some decreases in our percentages of tier 3 students. And then if you look at the Spanish, we decreased in all, tier 3 students decreased in all grade levels in Spanish. So sometimes I think the graphs, you kind of have to look at the X and Y axis and look at the grades, but then look at how many students are being assessed. So I kind of took the data for you guys and I put it in charts, because I thought that might be a little bit easier than the percentages. So I took raw data, translated it into the charts, so you could see how many students were assessed in the beginning of the year, which was October, how many students, K through 5, English and Spanish all together, were considered tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So if you compare those 2 charts, you can see like there's a couple of schools that really had some significant decreases in tier 3 and then significant increases in tier 1, which remember tier 1 are your students that are on track, and your tier 3 are the ones that are most at risk. So a couple of schools I'm just going to talk about is, so for instance, if you look at Kindred had 107 tier 3 students at the beginning of the year, but then now they decreased that to 94. And then if you look at their tier 1, they had 120 students in tier 1. Well, now they have 147 students in tier 1. Same thing with Palo Alto. Palo Alto, beginning of the year, they had 95 tier 3 students, and they had 226 tier 1s. But then they decreased their tier 3s to 82, and they very much increased their tier 1s to 272. So I just wanted to highlight them because they did have some significant gains, especially with their tier 1 students. So some of the things that are happening in reading in elementary is that teachers in grades K through 3, remember that they're learning about balanced literacy, they're implementing guided reading, so students are getting, they're grouped and they're getting small group instruction on their instructional reading level daily. And so this data, along with our Qantas and Pinnell data, is what we look at, and it gives us the whole picture of how we need to help our students. The other thing is the level literacy intervention kits, which our reading teachers and our special ed teachers receive training on in December and February, and those are being used to accelerate interventions and get the students back on track. So those are very scripted out lessons, and it tells the teachers when to progress monitor and do all those things. And then a reminder that depending on your tier in iStation is how much time you spend on the program week. So one of the elements of iStation is it does have a prediction indicator. So if the student attains a certain level or number, it can predict approaches, meets, and masters performance as if they took STAR that day. So this was the first one after 6 weeks of instruction, and then this is the one after 22 weeks of instruction, which was in February. So this data is February, beginning of February data. So what I wanted to give you some maybe a little bit more current data that you might want to hear about, because really, when we look at the most current benchmarks that our students took, it was a pretty good prediction with approaches, but how our students performed, our students exceeded these pretty well. So the third grade on the most recent benchmark had 57% approaches, 21% meets, and 8% masters. So even though this is what iStation predicted, we're exceeding that in the meets and masters level. And the same is true in grade 4 and grade 5. So 54% of the students hit approaches, 25% of the students hit meets, and 10% hit masters in 4th grade. And then the benchmark, 5th graders took theirs in February. They had 61%, 26%, and 8%.
If I may, Michelle.
Yes.
What is that question?
Yes.
The numbers that you're reading us on the most recent, that's not something that's on a slide. right?
No, it's not, but I wanted to give you that data because I wanted you to know, like, remember we talked about last time with the math, and I kind of said, hey, I did my own study because I wanted to know how accurately these programs can predict performance. And I said that what I'm finding is they do, to some degree, predict, but what I'm also finding is that, remember that they're predicting that as if the students took it that day. So then, as we have more instruction and more interventions, then we should be exceeding the prediction. Yeah. So, when we're looking at the goal progress measures, which are about master's performance in grade 3 reading and grade 5 reading, so I gave you what was it in 2018, what is the target for 2019, what was the beginning of the year prediction. So this has everything on it, including MOI, but remember that I just said on the most current benchmark, 8% of the students in both these grade levels were at master's level. And so then there's going to be more instruction, there's going to be more intervention, so I would expect that to be probably higher at test time. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the middle school data. So middle school data is based on math. So this was the data after 4 weeks of instruction when the kids took the test in September. And then here is were the projections. So we had some decreases, but when you looked at our most recent benchmark data, they were pretty close in approaches, but in all 3 grade levels, they exceeded these numbers in meets and masters. So again, we're exceeding the predictions.
Except in approaches.
Except in approaches. The approaches numbers were a little below, but then the other ones were pretty significantly higher. So for instance, on the most recent benchmark, 6th grade was 41% approaches, 17%, and then 7% masters. So 7th grade was 48%, 22%, and 10%. So like in 7th grade, they predicted 4, but we were at 10. So that's a pretty significant difference. And then in 8th grade, they took their benchmark go back in early February, and so they were at 59, 27, and 13. So some places were a little low, but again, so like I said, once we get our STAR data back, then we'll be able to kind of see where we're at. And then I went ahead and did a by campus view for you of the middle schools. So we had some increases, we had some decreases. And then increases and decreases at Shepherd in all 3 levels. And then Zamora, there was there after 4 weeks and then after 20 weeks. So we had some places at Zamora where they, the ones that lacked, they stayed It did not change. And so, middle school is a little bit different with the way they provide interventions and reading support to the students. And so all 3 campuses are using Exact Math. So once the students take the math test, then that data gets put into Exact Path, and it creates a customized pathway of intervention for each student based on how they did on the math test. And so students are able to get on the program and work, and they can even work from home if they choose to. And so they have time scheduled in the week where students get on the program and they work on their pathway. Dwight has 2 6th grade reading intervention classes where they are receiving a combination of face-to-face interventions, and then they might have some of the students on Exact Path, or they pull a small group and work with a small group of students. Kind of the same thing at Shepherd. They also have small group pullouts, and they have a teacher that does that. And then Zamora has a reading intervention class for each grade level, and they're doing that combination of face-to-face and the Exact Path online interventions as well. So I think that concludes, I think that is the end, and I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Shields. Board members, if there are any questions from Ms. Shields, if you'll raise your hand, I'll recognize you. Ms. Flores.
Thank you, Amy, for that information. I know it's very early, and I know it's all just predictions.
Yes.
And I know that last year the benchmark for math?
Last year was the first year that we used math, and so this year was our second year using that.
So looking at last year to this year with the middle school, being that it was the first time that math was used last year, did we get it in the middle of the year, or did we start with it at the beginning of the year? I don't remember.
We got started late. So we
Okay.
did not take our first math assessment, I believe, until it was November. So the data, it's hard to compare.
Yeah, so
maybe-
it's not, right,
Yeah.
you're not comparing it. So I guess for us to see more of a true picture would be the following year, to see where our kids are at this point, and maybe next year where they were this year compared to next year at this point. But they're all predictions, and that I understand. Because again, when you say the word raw, the raw data means that there's so much that's going to be coming out of there that still has to be filtered. And by the time we get that accountability tool that comes to us and says this is it, then a lot of things have been filtered through that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it looks like it's promising. Because again, it's one day in the life of a student taking an exam, and we don't know what all the distractions have been on that day, whether it be at school, whether it be personal. Bottom line is that we all have to work together to make sure that our kids are prepared with the best that they can to meet the challenges that day on the state assessment.
I would say the one thing that math has done for us is given us very specific data about the strengths and weaknesses of our students so that we can really hone in on how to help them. And I think in the math report, I showed you where it classifies the students in the 4 areas in math into low average, high average. And so you can look at in the 4 areas, if a student is like high average, then the average area is where that student needs the work in order to bump them up in their performance level. So the same is true of reading as well.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Anyone else? Any more questions for Ms. Shields? No? Mr. Rodriguez.
Ms. Shields, as always, thank you very much for the data and the reports. I just have a question on the reading intervention classes. Can you explain to me how that works in that time?
So they look at student data to determine who would need to be in that class. And so every time they're taking, so they take the math data, or every time they take a benchmark, they're looking at that data and honing in on what those students need. So they can use Exact Path, so like some students can be on Exact Path working on their customized pathway, and then it allows the teacher to pull a small group of students and hone in on something that group needs to focus on.
And when you mean intervention class, are being pulled out of their regular class and put into this intervention class?
It's just one of their classes in their 8-period day.
Thank you.
Michelle, I just have one question. We have more STAR testing coming up,
Yes, ma'am.
and then we also have some results coming up pretty soon as well. So I'm hoping that as soon as we get the results, because that's going to be a true indicator of where we are as far as our middle school kids. And that's always been a real concern with me, especially our 8th graders. And I'm looking at the chart at some of the middle schools, there's quite a few of the 8th graders that are still in the red, so that concerns me. But I think as soon as we can get the information when it comes in, Dr. Flores, I'm sure is going to do that for us right away, because we need to analyze that and see where are we. You know, they're taking the test, because that's the last time they take it, right? The middle schools? No. They have another?
They have 2 more opportunities.
Okay.
So we would want the data, because we need to start providing those interventions, because the students will retest the week, I think, of May 15th.
So we need to really focus on those kids that are not at approaches yet.
Yes.
And that they need that extra help. So let's keep on top of that as soon as we can get that information.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I thank you for all the data. It's very, very helpful, very revealing. I would have liked to have seen this was just a predictor of what you're actually seeing. Because you've got some good numbers compared to the predictor.
Right.
So it would have been nice to have seen the
Yes.
bad and the good to show
Right.
us that there's actually some improvement.
Yeah, and I put this report together kind of a while ago, and then the benchmarks were just, I think like 2 weeks ago, like maybe 3 weeks ago. Can't remember. So next time, I will be glad to do that and put those in there as a slide.
Let's show our successes.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the quarterly investment report. Dr. Cordes?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Kaiser?
Yes, this is the second quarter, and I did, y'all will find in front of y'all, I gave y'all some new printouts that have some description clarifications, and none of the numbers changed with the exception of a average yield. There was a decimal point incorrect on that one. But as you'll notice, on the second and third page, I tried to give y'all really good descriptions of all the deposits and the withdrawals that were going on. We're mostly having deposits. It was a large quarter for tax collections. This is our second quarter, as I mentioned. And you'll notice that there was the $100,000 food service equipment grant fund that we received the money on. And I hope that what I did was I just structured it to where how I would want to see it, and I hope that it's clear for y'all. I did it by every investment pool, and then I also included the Wells Fargo. If you'll notice, we have First Public, Texas Term, Texas School, Wells Fargo. So I also made the report of detail, and if you'll go through each one of them, you'll be able to find out your totals on the deposit and then each line item that made up those totals. As well as the withdrawals, I did the exact same thing. Every withdrawal has the total of the withdrawals, I put every single one of them on there. The majority that came from the bonds was for camera purchases. So those happened from December through February. And I would entertain any questions you have.
Board members, are there any questions for Ms. Kaiser on the report at this time? I do.
Actually, I just have a comment. Thank you. Because you certainly answered questions before they were asked by providing that detail. So thank you very much.
Awesome, you're very welcome. This will happen every quarter.
I appreciate that. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Thank you.
And I too, this is the best. We've never had such a detailed report on quarterly investments like this. I mean, this is everything, every transaction. And this is the kind of thing that we should be getting that we weren't. So I thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I
My
do
staff
have-
is amazing.
I do have one question, and that's on the EDA bond service 2007. Those go back way back then, but it looks like we actually had a running balance, and I thought we had already exhausted all of those funds. But there is still a running balance on that from those bonds back in 2007.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the superintendent has tasked me with finding out how we've got some bonds from way back, like 1999. And so he has tasked me with, along with the chief of staff, how we can actually expend these in the way that they were meant to be. So that is what we're in the process of right now. Yes, ma'am.
This is so detailed on the status. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you all.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 3, and that is board constraint number 1. The board collectively and trustees individually will not perform or appear to perform any of the roles delegated to the superintendent. This is a constraint that, according to our schedule, must be reported quarterly. It was reported back in January, if I'm not mistaken, and so it comes back to us in April. So, board members, are there any discussions, any comments on our board constraint number 1? Mr. Ivanov.
So on this item, it is my belief that we have overstepped our boundaries on this constraint, and we have, I feel, in my opinion, performed the duties of the superintendent. I know this is always good, and we discussed, so that's my opinion. I feel like we've overstepped our boundaries, not stayed in our lane, and we've appeared to do the work of the superintendent in some respect. That's what I feel.
Thank you, your comments were taken. Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Willis.
I agree with what Mr. Ibarra has said. I do feel that we are not following this board constraint because either whether it's individually or collectively, we are appearing to perform the role of superintendent, and that is not our role. That's how I feel.
Thank you, Ms. Willis. Mr. Flores.
Yeah, I definitely would say that I feel, in my opinion, is we have not performed any roles dedicated to the superintendent, and that is my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Anyone else?
I certainly.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you.
I've actually gone through great lengths to ensure that I'm not performing the duties or appearing to perform the duties of the superintendent. Anytime I have a question on whether I may or may not be, I always refer to our legal counsel and our board policies, whether they're legal or local, to verify that I am in my opinion. So I realize now this is just my opinion. From being a parent at home and being a member of the audience and now sitting on here, I can certainly see why some people might have that perception, given the fact that now we probably have board members that are more engaged, more involved, asking questions. I think one time or several times I've heard, why are we asking so many questions? Well, we're obligated to. So I can understand how some people may have that perception, but the fact of the matter is that you have board members that are very resourceful, take tons of initiative, and ask a lot of questions. So I can understand why. But I've gone to great lengths to ensure that I'm not. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, I would like to, I have a question, and my question is to our legal counsel, to Mr. O'Hanlon. Mr. O'Hanlon, my question to you is, has the Board of Trustees at any time overstepped their boundaries when it comes to the duties of the superintendent? Have we as a board, as is said, appears to have performed the roles delegated to the superintendent? Thank you, Mr. O'Hanlon. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our discussion on constraint number 1, so we'll move on to number 4. It's a report on current status of Head Start. Dr. Flores.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sana.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Flynn. Is it working, sir? Okay. So what is it that Head Start does? So Head Start is a program that promotes, yes, we're good, okay. That promotes school readiness of children ages 3 to 5 from families of low income, okay, here in our district. And we do this by supporting children's growth and development in a positive learning environment. And we offer this through a variety of services through early learning, and this is how children progress in social skills in the classroom and emotional well-being, and along with language and literacy learning and concept development. We also do that through the health, and this is by our program connected our families with medical, dental, and mental health services to ensure that families are receiving the services they need, and also by doing the whole family well-being. Our program supports and strengthens the parent and child relationship and engages the family around the children's learning and language development. So it's a whole program for the child and the family. Okay, so where are we? No? All right. Scott? There. So where are we now? So we've had this grant for a total now of 6 years. We were awarded again in 2018 for 5 more years. And it will end again in 2022, and hopefully we will apply again. So we were granted again 288 slots. And by slots, that means how many children we can serve. So currently now we're serving 288 3- and 4-year-olds in all of our 9 elementaries. In 2017, as being part of the Head Start grant, we had to do a community needs assessment. And what that means is that we had to go out in the community after the contract was out, and we had to find out what were the needs of our community. How many children they're out there, our poverty rate, graduation rate, dropout rate. And we found out that there were more students that we could service between the ages of 2 and 5, but we don't do the early Head Start, but we have between 3 and 5. So as a result, I reached out to the Office of Head Start, to my program specialist, requesting additional slots. And I was informed at the moment that we had already reached our maximum slots, that we could not ask for any more funding or slots opportunity this time because there was no funding available. And then I said, okay, well, how does funding become available? How can we request more slots because there isn't any? And they said, well, you have to go on the website in the Office of Head Start, there's a website, and there is when the funding opportunities come out. So every day I have one person that's there every morning checking to see when those funding opportunities come up. So I've been in this position for 2 years, and there have not been any funding opportunities at the moment. So that's how it comes out, but we don't take no for an answer. Right before I came to this meeting, I was on the website checking for funding opportunities. So I noticed that there's a board agenda tonight on that to apply for additional slots. However, at the moment, like I said, I would like to inform the board that there are no additional slots available at this time. So,
Board members, any questions for Ms. Smith on the Head Start program? Mr. Yano?
At the beginning, thank you for the presentation. At the beginning of the presentation, it says that Head Start program promotes school readiness. What evidence do we have that there's a curriculum associated to get kids school ready for kindergarten from Head Start? Are we practicing some sort of curriculum to get school ready?
We do have a curriculum, yes. I don't know if you remember when I spoke the last time that we are aligning with, right here, we're aligning with kinder. He's smiling because yes, we're kinder. We're aligning with kinder because we want to make sure we're all on the same curriculum. So this summer, we're having summer training for our pre-K and Head Start teachers with Montes and Pinnell and guided reading, shared reading, and interactive reading. So we're all aligned, so we're all teaching the same, and we're all learning the same way on how to teach reading.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember I brought up this question at the beginning, so I was just following up. I'm trying to make sure that we are and especially with our schools.
Can I add to that? So I will also share with you, so that's the answer, but it's not doing the answer justice, right? In school districts that I've been in, it's usually two different entities. You have Head Start and you have pre-K. So South San does an excellent job in bringing them both together. And it's our South San certified teachers that are teaching the actual students. So although they qualify to Head Start, it's our teachers at South San that are actually teaching the students. So it's not two different entities. It's one and the same. And they're following the district adopted curriculum so that they're moving through.
Awesome, thank you very much, that's what I wanted to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. Anybody else on the Head Start?
Actually, yes, Madam President.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Just to follow up on Mr. Nava, we have our teachers, so these Head Start that are participating, they're kids that live in our school district. And if they don't move out of the district, will eventually come into our school system, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And then my follow-up question, and you may or may not know it, if you don't know, it's okay. So we have 288 slots. Do we have a number tied to, I know there's probably a number tied to the grant that we get, a dollar amount, if we wanted, if the question was posed of what the cost would be to the district to take on more slots. Do we have a dollar figure, whether it's the grant or per kid in our program, per child in our program?
So that cost to actually,
I guess what's the cost?
that student per pupil cost?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So currently, we don't have, we can get that to you, so per pupil cost. So I can tell you that Head Start is not the only pre-K program we have. We
Yes, sir.
also
Yes,
have
sir.
a locally funded 4-year pre-K that the district also offers. So we're not just pulling in kids to Head Start, we're also pulling them in through our 4-year
Yes, sir.
program. So we can definitely fund that.
Yeah, if you do it, it'd be okay if that.
Yeah, not all the time.
Okay, not urgent. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr.
Madam
Porter?
Chair, I just want to say thank you for working with our little ones because that does set a foundation. So thank you to you and your staff for the dedication and especially like you're saying, you're trying to look for more opportunities. And so I really appreciate that you're doing that, especially when sometimes it's on your own time. So thank you very much. Thank you to your staff.
No, thank you. Our staff is amazing, yep. Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have some questions, Ms. McCall, if you bear with me. Let me ask you, you just said that our teachers are teaching the Head Start children. So are they getting funded through federal money or through state money?
They get split funding. They get split
Split
funding.
funding?
Yes, half and half.
Okay. So since we're servicing through the federal program 3 to 5, but you have 3 and 4-year-olds, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so my question is, the pre-K program is getting funded partially by the state, and the district pays the other half, because we have a full-day pre-K.
Yes.
So, so the other question I have is, since we're at capacity at Head Start, do we have a capacity for a pre-K program, or there's no limit? Is there, a Head Start has a capacity, 288. Do we have a capacity in accepting our pre-K kids?
It's not about a capacity, we would accept more kids, we would actually have to fund them as well. And so I know that there's legislative thought about increasing funding for pre-K, it may change over the summer, but a lot of times the cost comes out of local monies in order to provide services, aside from what we cannot borrow.
Because we're only getting half, and then we're paying half.
Correct.
So then, Ms. McCutcheon, do you know, just top of your head, I don't expect you to know the exact number. We have 288 Head Start kids. Can you tell me the breakdown, how many are 3-year-olds and how many are 4-year-olds? Just a round ballpark figure. It doesn't have to be exact, I'm not going to hold it to you.
But I'm thinking of the classrooms. I know for sure we have about 4, I would say about 80 out of the 288 that are 3-year-olds.
So about 200 then are actually 4-year-olds that could be in our pre-K program, possibly. I mean, that we accept 4-year-olds in our pre-K program. So my question then, I know we don't have slots available anymore in Head Start, but, and I know the district will have to look at that. Can we, let's say, I'm just throwing it out, can we take 50 of the 4-year-olds and enroll them into pre-K, therefore freeing 40 slots into your Head Start program? Now, is the criteria the same? I would think so, for both, is it?
It's not. Head Start has a selection criteria, a point system, I'm sorry. And it's different from the state pre-K. The state pre-K it goes by income, language, homelessness, but Head Start has a point system. And it's based on disability. It ranks higher if you're disabled, you get higher points. If you are homeless, you get higher points. But the state system, it goes mainly by income or if you're second language learner. And the incomes are, the federal program, the income levels are way lower than the state programs.
So, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Ramos.
We register, we rank, and we fill the Head Start slot.
Yes, yes, so we've been having we have recruitment for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is our last recruitment day today. So yes, so what we do, it's called recruitment. So we have been enrolling all 3 and 4-year-olds right now. So we first pick up all the Head Start slots because those are the first that we should fill because of the federal program, and then we move on to the 4-year-olds. Right? Okay. So then we meet all those criteria first, because we have to put them in priority, and like it's a selection, it's a point system, and that's how it goes first. And we work very collaboratively with special ed, because we have to know who's disabled, and also that's how we pick them first.
Yes,
Yes, and it's for the neediest kids first.
Right.
Pick those first. Okay, sorry.
Gee, I was kind of hoping maybe we could move some of those into pre-K and
I
free
know.
up some slots.
I know.
That would help
And it
tremendously.
actually happens the opposite way. So based on the guidelines for grants, we're mandated to, a student that comes in that's a 3 and 4-year-old, we pre-register, we take in, we look at their criteria. Based on the most neediest students, we have to put them placed first. So in those 288, they start taking up slot 1, slot 2, all the way to 288. The other students that don't get into Head Start, we shift them over to pre-K.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we move,
Yes.
so that is actually the opposite way. So then the school district pays half of that, and the state pays the other half.
Right.
So we're working at the opposite way.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. That was going to be my next question.
Yes, ma'am.
If they don't qualify for Head Start, do you push them over
Yes.
to pre-K and
Yes.
get them
Yes.
enrolled in our program?
Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely. We need to fill up pre-K slots.
Absolutely.
Right.
Good. Well, I think you've got a good handle on the Head Start program, Ms. McDowell, and actually, your presentation answered my question, because that was the item that I had placed, so I will be pulling that item on the action item list. So the action item number, let's see, number 5 will be pulled tonight. Ms. McDowell has answered my question. Thank you, Ms. McDowell, thank you, Ms. McDowell, for your presentation. Okay. Ms. McDowell, excuse me, I think.
Well, it's
Oh, sorry.
directed to Dr. I mean, you might have some input on it, but my question is that if we surveyed the community, we found that need like we have already, where we're lacking in that capacity to service our kids.
Right.
And the board so chose to set aside more money, if we said that that's what we wanted to do, what would be your recommendation on how to approach adding 3K seats, not through a Head Start program? What can we do in that capacity?
Well, until we receive additional funding for it, it's always going to come at a yearly loss for the district. It's an investment that you're making, but you're not making it off every annual revenues you're using. It's like you're saying, you're using your savings account to pay for your monthly bills. And so there's always, and when the district considers that a priority, then if you're going to make that investment, we can continue to work, and we develop the budget with the understanding that you may end up with a deficit precisely because you're investing so much money into the pre-K, which by any means is a worthwhile endeavor to go ahead and include in there. Possible solution is to partner with outside entities so they can provide some supplemental funding, so you can provide the services to the community, and that's always something that we could always consider and talk about going forward, so that you're not completely just taking monies out of the fund balance to pay for maintenance and operations funds, which would be the case if we had to fund the service.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. That's what I was looking for. It's just another alternative to try to service the needs of the community.
If I may, since you brought up that question, I want to give a little history. I know about you wanting me as a partner to try and get savings out of that. When pre-KSA was created, they were looking for partners all over the city of San Antonio from all the districts. And actually, our pre-K program was the model program that pre-K for SA used to create their program. A lot of you here remember that. We had the best, we do have the best pre-K program here in San Antonio. So pre-K for SA was modeled by ours. The city wanted us to come and partner with them. And I give kudos to Dr. Saavedra. He said, nope, you are using us as a model. So we are pre-K. We should be pre-K SA. But nevertheless, we did not partner with them. We have an excellent program. We want our kids. We're not going to share them. So just a little history of where that whole thing started. So absolutely, the more kids we can bring in, the better. Because those pre-Ks will be our baby Bobcats, and it will be more ADA. So I agree with Mr. Yamato. Okay. All right, so thank you so much, Ms. Mercado. Let's move on. Next we have citizens to be heard. Dr. Flores, is there?
Thank you, Madam President. Citizens to be heard will be a 3-minute opportunity for citizens to come up and speak. In the interest of momentum and minimal interruption, I'll hold up the 30-second card here. That will give you the opportunity to start wrapping up your remarks. Right, and just a friendly reminder, you can't, the Citizens Bureau can't mention direct names of anybody from the administration. So, the first citizens to be heard is Melivia. No? Sabrina Salinas?
She's not ready either.
Okay. Hayden Willis?
She's also not ready.
Ebony Gonzalez?
Okay, that's me.
Okay. My name is Ebony Gonzalez. I'm a sophomore at South San High School. Member of this board, you have repeatedly mentioned how you're here to help students and that you care about our mental health. But if you really are here for us and care about us, then how can you vote no on our Community Wellness Center? You've not only ignored the community, but also the students that you're here to help. That Community Wellness Center could have helped us and our families with not only mental health, but with many other vital needs. You also asked why you're just hearing about this now. But we've been mentioning this for 3 years. The only reason you're now just talking about this is because you don't want to look bad. Somebody on the board has stated that you requested the immediate establishment of a committee that reviews the district's programming that addresses our well-being. However, there's already a committee in place that is run by our only social worker out of this whole district. You also asked the questions of how many counselors we have and what's the ratio. How come you don't know? You work for the district. If this is really important to all of you, then you would have known the numbers when it comes to things such as counselors. So just like the words of somebody on this board, suicide and depression should not wait, and neither should we. The students' lives are in your hands. We demand that you rescind your decision. If you do not, we will ask for the TA to come down and dismantle the board completely. Thank you.
Excuse me. let me remind the audience, please, that there will be no disruption. The rules were already set out at the beginning of the meeting, in case you weren't here. There will be no applause in favor or opposed to any item or any discussion. And so this will be your first warning. Thank you.
Next citizen to be heard is Adriana Rodriguez.
I am ashamed to say that I am a student of a district that refuses to respect the wishes of students and families. I am appalled at the complete absence of transparency and the actions of the board to literally go against the superintendent, the Chamber of Commerce recommendation to students and the community. It is a shame that the president and another board member are currently going out of their way to steal opportunities of resources from students, family, and community members. It is troubling to me as a student that the main person leading the decisions about our future are not students and families of the district, but somebody who has been tied to corruption and investigated on multiple occasions. With that being said, it makes me wonder and fear how this board president, given such power to influence the denial of community wellness center. It also fills my heart with great sadness to know that our district slogan is "My South Side, My Choice," while board members have the audacity to silence the community and students. The board has aggressively refused to hear information on alternatives to school reopening and how important the community wellness center would be for our district. The abhorrent lack of mental health services in our community is an issue that the students at this school district have been bringing up for over 3 years now. Apparently, it wasn't important to Madam President previously since nothing has ever been done. That is why we find it shocking that only one meeting resulting in mountains of bad press, our board is able to jump to at a moment's notice, put together a presentation on market services in a shallow attempt to save face. The district has known about these issues for years, and the only thing doing something now because they look bad. At this point, how do you even know where you're working for? Us or yourselves? I am sure we would all like to know the truth about your motive for denying over $10 million towards renovation of a district property to be rented as a community wellness center. As a student of this district for the majority of my life, I demand that 4 assistant board members resign the vote to open cases of the school, let the city turn it into a wellness center, and for God's sake, try to get news for something positive.
Next citizen to be heard is Madison Donovan.
Not here.
Next would be Amanda Amanda Nava.
Good evening. So, at last week's special call meeting, a board trustee mentioned that the board will not be going bankrupt as many people may assume. But if that's the case, a question where this funding was when rent infestation was first brought to our attention. Why can't we use this money to fix bathroom walls? And don't you think ceilings in classrooms should be repaired before opening 3 new schools? Now that the board majority wants to see these schools open, suddenly we're willing to spend large amounts of funds and use our school budget to do so. This takes money away from potential programs and This takes money away from potential programs and the fixing of issues that are occurring in schools, not to mention the issues that are destined to arise within these shutdown schools. At last week's meeting, I held a sign saying the board wants to go fast, not far. One of the reasons I decided to use this quote was because if our board wanted to move far and improve what we have, they would listen to the outcry of the community and keep us informed on what's happening. We should not have to dig for it ourselves. The board wanting to move fast is putting everyone they impact at risk. Not only are communities going to be yet again ripped apart, but our already limited resources will now be stretched. Instead of giving the campuses we have now more staff and resources, the board would rather stretch this same staff and amount of resources to accommodate 3 more schools. A piece of land to be offered to the city for a community center was mentioned, and what I found humorous about this was how it was failed to be brought up when our city councilman first presented his proposal. Why couldn't this be expressed to him rather than blowing him off? This goes to show that certain trustees are seemingly holding a grudge and refuse to receive help because of personal issues. What we need to realize here is how it's not just about you. Now let me explain this, or let me ask you this. Is the motive behind reopening these schools student success, or is it instead emotional connection? What makes this even more interesting is that a part of the budget committee who has made the majority of decisions wishes to keep these meetings off of live stream. Now, I do understand that it may be optional, but having a live stream allows individuals who cannot show up at the inconvenient time of 10 a.m. to gain information about what's going on within these meetings. When there is no live stream, there's no communication. How is the community expected to gain knowledge of the plan? Perhaps that's the reason they request to have the cameras taken down. Maybe they don't want the community to know the inner workings of this plan. A member of the board stated that if Mo Casey had concerns about reopening schools, they would voice these concerns in the process. However, when a Mo Casey consultant was asked about why they were hired, they said we weren't hired to make a judgment on wisdom of trying to reopen the schools in the time we have. We were hired to try and help the school district reopen schools. This uncovers just another inconsistency in what has been told to the community by the board. Layer by layer, the truth becomes more and more apparent.
The next instance to be heard is Damian Martinez.
I'm Damian Martinez, and I'm reading this off the line. So I'm completely embarrassed and disappointed by the school district. I can't believe that you all say you want us out here to speak, but then don't even listen to us. We've been shut down publicly by the people who are here for the students. How can you claim to be here for us, but jeopardize our education by making these ridiculous decisions? But of course we'll do it anyway because this won't affect you, it affects us. This isn't your education that you're putting on the line. Putting emotions over logic will get this district nowhere. As Dr. Hernandez stated last Thursday, less than 50 students are going to participate in anything that only South San offers. Yet this is such a great idea. Let's put our students in some rundown schools with old equipment and leave the current problems because this is more important. I noticed that our school's teacher of the year doesn't even have a working smart board because of lack of funding. Rat infestations, mold, leaking roofs, etc. are obviously no concern to you all as you seem to go to the side, just like you throw a student to the side. You're going to change around our schedule to fit the needs of West Campus and mess up everything for about 3,000 students. For only 50 students, our schedule as of right now is to fit in with all of the college. So we're going to interfere with them so you can have your schools, how can they consider to put everyone's education on the line for these few students that aren't even for sure going to West Campus. I'm also offended that us students were yelled at by our legal counsel to shut up. There have been plenty of meetings where there have been parents and community members making rude and ugly comments towards other community members and even towards board members. But since they're on the majority side, it was not an issue. But us here and just clapping, on the minority side, they told to shut up. We were not in any way disruptive, rude, or disrespectful. Thank you for your time.
The next citizen to be heard is Mark Mendiola. No, I'm sorry, Jordan Almanis.
Hello, thank you for having me. I commend Pete Flores for speaking up and creating awareness. I commend every student that had the confidence to come up here and spill their life story. I commend the staff members that are willing to speak their mind and fight for the respect they deserve and for the rights of the students. This is about so much more than just opening schools. This is about us fighting for our rights. This is about our mental health, our CTE programs, our resources, and our voices. The voices you all contract to cut out. I stand here facing a board that is split, where some of the individuals care enough to listen to us and respect us, and others frankly couldn't care any less about us. Sadly, those people who don't care about community input are the ones running the future of this district. Blindly following one person's opinion, you ignore every student, every hardworking staff member, every parent worried about their child's education. At the end of the day, the board majority will get what they want no matter what the community says. You deny individuals the opportunity to speak because you are afraid of what they will say and how illogical they'll make you appear. You deny time to evaluate other options because you are scared of your own wants being put aside. The unwillingness to listen goes even further than just the school board. There are members of the community who refuse to hear us as well. There are adults that resort to social media to pull children and students down and tell us that we have no right to speak. They oppress students and attack us in the comment section just because we spoke up. So thank you to Pete Flores and Ray Saldana and the board members that do listen. Thank you to every adult that has encouraged us and given us the opportunity to be heard. When is the entire community going to acknowledge and realize just because we are students does not mean that our words are less valuable? You say you care, yet you stare in our faces and vote against us and miss every opportunity you have to prove to us you care. Put your pride aside, please. Let go of these old schools. These campuses were shut down because we don't need them. Our population doesn't need them, and our students don't need them. We need more resources, more programs. We need our current campuses fixed. I assure you, a large majority of the people sitting in here today agree, but they don't all have the opportunity to say it. You claim that the community wanted these schools, yet you haven't polled the community. You say that us students want them, then the next second you claim that students don't even know that West Campus is opening. You are hypocritical. You bend the truth and change your views just to back up whatever you're saying in that moment. When I look in front of me, I see a group of people oblivious to reality and blinded by their own fallacies. We all know the outcome of every voting today, and I won't favor the community's opinion whatsoever. But I just pray that you realize the future of every student in this district is in your hands. If they fail, then you failed them.
The next that says be heard is Mark Mendiola.
Hello, unfortunately I didn't have anything prepared, but I do agree with the students and I want to commend them for coming up here and having guts and speaking the truth, and I agree with everything that they're saying. And yeah, that's it. There's nothing else to add because it's repetitive, and if you can't get the message now, then I guess they'll never get there. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
The next that says be heard is Miranda Hudson.
Hello. Y'all you are all so very brave to have your voices heard. This statement has been stated towards us frequently, but are you really listening? Listening means to take action, yet nothing is being done. It's as if our cries go through one ear and out the other, which leads us to believe you're only thinking of yourself. You only care if it benefits you and your personal gain. All we asked for was to support our idea. But it seems too big of a job for the four who voted against us. The job, the school board is supposed to protect the students, teachers, staff, etc. Although the concern you have is for your pride and money, how very selfish of you to prioritize yourself instead of putting us first. We are the future doctors, engineers, teachers of the city. Will any of us be able to do the unimaginable if we struggle with mental health now? As courageous as you say we are, you seem to not care about our necessities. Imagine if your own child had to suffer the amount of emotional pain we had to endure all this time. Your whole argument is a contradiction to yourself, and you'll be the ones who lose in the end. Everyone is watching.
The next that says to be heard is Oscar Menchaca. Next that says to be heard is Natalie Moncada. Next that says to be heard is Juan Vigil.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. What I just observed was that a lot of these kids are very upset. From this last week's meeting, y'all all voted that y'all are for the mental health. So the thing is, it takes time to build this, the way same time it takes to make them, to continue having their resources. We don't have the resources of these doctors or certified people that will give medications or so forth. But I'll tell you something from what I learned today is that they were really, they're being taught very well with some literature there that shows a lot of aggressiveness that's not going to help them in their lives. So whoever's teaching them to these, there was Flores involved, and there was Ray involved, so apparently they're disappointed at something, and that's very sad to say, because if they come to the meetings, for our board that's on now has showed a lot more interest for our students and for our school, for our community. So I don't see why all this aggressiveness is really coming. You know, so it sounds like if they're being taught or saying what to say, that's embarrassing, because if that's what our old people who are on the board before, and some are, is teaching them these things. That's the wrong way of looking at things, because you gotta really focus and listen what the board's talking about, what our new superintendent is willing to work with our community, what our prior superintendent was not. Everyone had tongues tied that we're here. And now we want to speak. Me too, I want to speak. And I'm glad that I'm up here being able to speak. I thank you very much, board members and the superintendent, because when our old superintendent, he did not allow us to speak. Not even our students were up here speaking. But at the last, when they wanted to pass the TRE, which was not passed. So it's disappointment that they have of TRE or their citizen cases that they want to build a health institute or whatever there. It's not. It takes time. It takes money. But we do have a resource here. We do have space here that we can accommodate somehow with these schools being open. This could be less to our school, to South San, so then there will be more options for you to say, you know what, we got this area to work with. We can focus, but go hand in hand with University Health, go hand in hand with the city of San Antonio. Those are, but apparently these kids are being taught what to say and showing them so much aggressiveness, and that's very sad to say. So if Ray and Mr. Flores are doing this, they're approaching things at the wrong time, the wrong way. They're disappointed for some reason. But thank you, board, thank you, superintendent, for coming along, and I think we're doing good. And keep up going, working for these students that do need the help, and have them understand there's a difference in how to approach, not anger. You know, that they're going about it the wrong way, and that's what the city's going to be about, that's what our future's going to be about. I don't know what else can happen to them. Thank you.
That concludes our citizens to be heard segment. Moving on to action items and consent items. Board members, I'd like to offer a change order of the day under discussion and possible action. I would like to move item number 4, which is the discussion and possible action to approve the student outcome goals and progress measures up to item number 1. And then, item number 4 would be number 1, and number 1 would be number 2. Any questions on that? Okay, so.
You're not talking about consent, but it's discussion.
Okay, so now we're going to have our consent agenda items. We have items 1 through 7. Number 7, 1 through 7, so I'm going to read each one into the record, and then I'll ask if there are any items that need to be pulled. Consent item 1 is approval of board meeting minutes, time management log, and board tracker for A, March 6, 2019 special call meeting, B, March 21st, 2019 special call meeting, C, March 26, 2019 special call meeting, D, March 27th, 2019 regular meeting. Number 2 is approve the selection and purchase of English language arts and reading textbooks that align with the new TEKS. Number 3 is approve cooperative program agreement between the University of Texas at San Antonio and South San Antonio ISD. And number 4 is approve the instructional materials allotment certification for enhancing instructional and technology resources to promote student achievement. And number 5 is approve the shared service agreement with San Antonio Independent School District for the Regional Day School Program for the Deaf. And number 6 is approval of the April budget amendment. And number 7 is approval as necessary of construction contracts for remodeling at Athens Cayce West Campus in Olivares. At this time, I asked Dr. Flores. Dr. Flores, do you have a recommendation for items 1 through 7?
Well, I definitely make a motion that I don't make the motion for the recommendation, but yeah, that we will go ahead and do it, add it on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Flores. Okay, board members, are there any consent items that need to be pulled for question?
I'd like to pull item number 7.
Okay, Ms. Flores is pulling item number 7. Anyone else? Any other items? Okay, and I'd like to pull item number 6. Okay, therefore, at this time, do I hear a motion to approve the remaining items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Move to approve.
There's a motion by Mr. Ibarra. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Flores. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Flores, I think you pulled item number 7.
I believe I had a question on this, and thank you for answering my question, Madam Chair. I just want to make sure that we're giving the superintendent, that he would have the authority to make the recommendation to bring to the full board, rather than the budget committee making the recommendations to bring to the full board on this item. Approval as necessary of construction contracts for remodeling at Athens, Case, and West Campus, and otherwise. I just need an assurance that the superintendent would have the authority to make the recommendation.
Okay. Is that in a motion or?
That I would make that as a motion, that to approve this approval as necessary of the construction contracts for the remodeling at Athens, Case, and West Campus, provided as by giving the superintendent the authority to make the recommendation to the full board.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Flores. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ibarra. Any discussion? Mr. Flores.
Yes, I have a question. On the construction contracts, we're just asking for approval as necessary. They've already been presented, correct?
No, let me clarify if I may. Ms. Romano, would you clarify on this item, please?
Yes, and I think that with respect to what we're trying to do, or what I think we're trying to do, this isn't about the board or the committee, this is about kind of fast tracking these items. So far, here's what the district has done. The district has adopted a budget for these projects. They did a budget amendment in the last meeting. That control that. We've selected a method of construction for the West Campus, other than that, board policy CH local gives the authority to the superintendent to select the method of construction. So we selected the method of construction. That's already we've adopted a budget for these several projects. The idea here was but CH local also contains constraints on the superintendent. Those constraints are the superintendent may not, without board approval, approve a contract in excess of $50,000. Also, the superintendent, with one exception, or one notable exception, there's an exception in the policy for contracts that are done for purchasing, off of purchasing codes. Okay? The superintendent's authorized to do that. The thought was that because we're in a hurry, we may want to consider authorizing the superintendent for some items to exceed the 50, not to essentially to have to, this doesn't go back to the committee. The idea was just to let the superintendent, because we're in a hurry, go ahead and contract for those items. Essentially, where the board would pre-authorize that. I asked earlier today the superintendent to kind of look at what authority he thought he might need with respect to executing those. And I think he made some concept. So this isn't about the budget committee versus board. This is about authorizing the superintendent under some circumstances, because there's only a few months before we start school, to go ahead within the constraints, whatever the motion is that y'all said, to pre-authorize things so that we do that so we get on. So it's not contrary, it's not about controlling, it's actually giving the superintendent additional authority, not to make recommendations, but to actually execute the contract. So that was kind of the notion. Well, I didn't have a particular amount in mind when we set out to do this. Just trying to expedite the occasion. Middle April, we still have to bid this. We still have to get into this building in terms of that, and so I'm trying to accelerate where we can, we still have to follow the law, but where we can accelerate the approvals, so that we can move on to the project.
Board members, if I may, I'd like to ask Dr. Flores, what would be your recommendation? I know we're going to authorize you to do this, but to exceed the amount that you have the authorities for 2,000, what number are you looking at to authorize you and your staff to do this?
I'm going to ask Mr. Schuman and Mr. Doucette to go ahead and come in and help articulate the recommendation we want to get.
As we get in contact earlier today to kind of get some clarity on this number, so we will be able to quickly what we think is going to be the largest contract that we can execute as per Kevin's already discussed within the policy. So one of the items that we're looking at is basically the painting. That's going to be the internal and external painting of Payson and Athens. The number that we came up with was about $310,000. Was the largest contract. We would like to go a little higher just to make sure that it fits 311. I don't have to come back and ask, but that's the number that we came up with. But we're up to any challenge.
If I may ask also, Mr. Schuman, I don't know if you have the information. I know that we're also looking at replacing the freezers at some of these schools, so walking freezers. What are the costs for those walking freezers? Are they like $100,000 or something?
I don't have the cost on hand, but what I can say is that we can do that through cooperative, so we have the ability to execute that without needing to work.
Would that, I know the $300,000 is for the painting, but are we going to have any other items that would exceed, let's say, $100,000? Because I think that's the biggest one because you're painting all the schools.
Well, if you gave us the option to go up to $300,000, then we could consider looking at some of the cooperative bids and seeing if we could go out and have a little more competitiveness into the market. So when we look at the remediation, for example, while each project would be over $100,000, with the vendor that we've had quoted, we could consider looking at vendors that aren't on the cooperatives and possibly get a lower number where we're saving district money, right? If going off of expediency, we didn't have this authority, we use it cooperatives.
And I understand that's what you're coming to us for, to get that authority to do that, and I agree, I think we should extend that authority for these projects. Board members, are there any other questions for Mr. Schuman or Dr. Flores on these items?
Madam Chair, now that I've heard the rationale, because again, I'm hearing it for the first time, but now that I'm hearing the rationale, then it would make the process better for the superintendent to have that authority with the bids with the amount of construction contracts that are coming for this fast track opening of campuses, then I would withdraw my motion and just go with the approval as necessary of construction contracts, as long as it's the superintendent and staff that are making the recommendations.
Ms. Woodard, if I may, can I amend your motion to add the specific number that's being requested of 300, with a limit of 300,000, specifically for Athens, Payson, West Campus, and Olivares, and then any other contracts of 100,000.
310 was the number.
310, okay, with a limit of $310,000, not to exceed that on these projects. Right?
Individual projects.
Individual projects, that's right. Is that okay, Ms. Woodard, to include that? Okay, Mr. O'Hanlon, does that suffice?
Yes, ma'am, I think that the board's intent is clear. We're simply trying to move this along as best we can,
Mr. Schuman, is the 310 number a fixed number, or are we going to have to come back to the board because then it'll be 312,000 or something like that?
If it was 312,000, then yes, we would come back to the board.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't have the
Right, so would it be common sense?
Would 350 be?
Thank you very much. Let's 310, 999
It'll give us an excuse to push the paying contract down.
All right, okay.
Yeah, we said 350, ma'am, were you comfortable with that?
All right, that's 350 is good. So the motion by Ms. Flores is To approve item number 7 as necessary, approval is necessary of construction contracts for remodeling of Athens, Hazen, West Campus, and Olivares in the amount of $350,000 limit for those specific projects. Is that correct, Ms. Flores? Okay, so Item Flores, motion by Ms. Flores, do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Ibarra. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Shulman. Okay, I asked to pull item number 6, which is the budget amendment. And I'm going to refrain from that because my question had to do with the update that you just gave us on those green code items, that you clarified that. So I thank you so much. So I have no more questions on number 6. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 6, approval of the April budget amendment. I have a motion and I heard a second from Mr. Ibarra. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now moving on to discussion and possible action. The first item is actually change is item number 4, is number 1 now. Discussion and possible action to approve student outcome goals and progress measures, superintendent constraint measures, and board constraint measures. Board members, as you recall, we went through a workshop to have this done, and we all came up with some revised goals for Dr. Flores and goals for the board as well. So this item is just coming to us for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? And I'd like to hold on to this, Dr. Flores, has any comments.
Yeah, before we proceed, just to make sure, the first 5 items on the consent agenda, Michelle, they were approved, correct? So,
Yes.
Yes, I just want to make sure that was covered.
Okay.
All right, so for this piece, is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then 6 and 7 independent? Right, okay, just want to double check.
Okay, Dr. Flores, we're on number 4, we
Yes.
moved that to number 1, which are the student outcome goals and progress measures, superintendent constraint measures, and board constraint measures. I've asked for any discussion, we have had a workshop on this.
Right.
And what is your recommendation on this item?
On this item, I do want for Dr. Nama to help articulate a little bit, so we can discuss a little bit on the development, where we are in the process of the development of the goal progress measures.
Okay.
And so, Dr. Nama, if you could please just help us out with that.
As any good steward, again, right, nothing is done in isolation, so this was a team approach, and we have definitely taken all the insight from definitely Dr. Flores and our Board of Trustees to make sure that we're in alignment. We still, just for the record, we haven't attended Lone Star Government Training, but we will definitely be there on the 3rd and 4th, early May. But this, we did use our Region 20 counterparts to definitely massage this out, so that we're definitely getting to a more accurate point. So let me call, if you allow me, I'm going to call up Ms. De Leon, Ms. Amy Shoes, and also Ms. Bussell to kind of go over specifically what we're looking at.
Good evening. So as you recall, our goal outcome 1 was surrounding our CCMR, which is our college, career, military readiness. So goal 1 was the percentage of graduating students who meet at least one of those indicators will increase from 35% to 45%. So as Dr. Nava mentioned, we worked in collaboration with Dr. Lee Hernandez, our executive principal, Bobby Shannon, our CTE coordinator, Mr. Gallardo, our lead counselor, Ms. Orozco, our REIS director, Ms. Melendez, our college and financial aid specialist, just to make sure that we had all of the stakeholders involved so that we made sure we were looking at it from all aspects. So looking at the CCMR, we had talked about what a big impact that has on our accountability, and so we wanted to look to make sure that our goal progress measures were giving us basically the biggest bang for our buck. What could we focus on that would really give the CCMR indicators to make sure that we were focusing on the biggest aspects of those. So if we look at goal progress measure 1, we're focusing on the college ready criteria. So it reads the percent of students who meet the college ready criteria on the TSI assessment, SAT, ACT, or by successfully completing and earning credit for college prep performance. So basically, any of those 4 areas, the students can get that college ready criteria. So we're looking to increase that from 13% to 20% by 2023. Goal progress measure 1.2, we're focusing on our industry-based certification. So we're looking specifically at the state-approved list. And as we mentioned in our board workshop, that state-approved list changes from year to year. But we wanted to really stay transparent and make sure that whatever we're reporting on our goal progress measure matches what's coming out on our accountability. So we wanted to make sure that that matches. And so whatever is approved by the state, that's going to be what we're reporting to you on our goal progress measure. So we're looking to increase that from 4% to 24% by August of 2023.
Let me ask a question on the certification.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all certifications?
No, so that's just the ones that are state approved. So throughout our 21 CCE programs, we offer an abundance of certifications, but not all of them make it to the state approved list. And that list changes from year to year, so there's no telling what will be on it. We will continue to offer an array of certifications, obviously focusing on the state approved, but we want to offer our students a multitude of opportunities. But what we will be reporting is what will be counted for us for accountability. And then our goal progress measure 1.3 will be focusing on our dual credit. So the goal progress measure reads the percent of students successfully completing at least one dual credit course in any subject will increase from 10% to 30% by August 2023, and through our focus on dual credit is through not only our early college academy, but also our health science, and then also our traditional dual credit program. So we're highly focused in that area, and we're sure that we can meet our progress measures.
Thank you. Board members, any questions on the goal progress measures for staff or Dr. Hernandez? I'm sorry, that's for, okay. Mr. Ivan.
Are you saying that these are still in development, or is this something you want to adopt?
Well, this is only one aspect of all the goals.
Right.
I want for us to bring you where we feel very comfortable. On the first goal, these are very set and we're fully prepared. But that being said, I would want to partially just approve some and not others, especially if we're going to also potentially be adding mental health wellness goal as well. So if we're going to have a board workshop by that point, I want to make sure that we have all the data, because as you will see in the next two goals, the other goal progress measures are going to be based as to how we perform at the end of the year. It'll establish a baseline, and that will give us the marker to develop the percentages moving forward in the years coming. So even though you're hearing this right now, I would still recommend that you at this point would approve the goals, not necessarily goal progress measures just yet.
We'll go over, so if it's okay, we'll definitely go over the goals 2 and 3.
Yes.
And then just so that you all understand, we're still waiting to set up the actual baseline, and you'll see that in some of the project measures. So we want to make sure that we set a baseline so that then we can measure ourselves up to that.
Okay, so the goal 2 is about each level performance on third grade math. And so when we think about that, we think about what are the things that we want to measure in those years in the early grades leading up that will ensure that our students, when they get to third grade, that they are able to meet that meets standard, which remember is on grade level. The student gets the meets performance level that is there considered on grade level. So in the development of the goal progress measures, we look at how can we measure in the previous grades that they are indeed on level. So goal progress measure 2.1 is about the percent of third grade students performing on or above grade level in mathematics utilizing a universal screener and progress monitoring tool will increase from X to X% by August 2023. So the baseline will be established. We'll know we've been doing that as the year progresses, and we'll know in May, because we'll have the beginning to the end of the year data and be able to set a reasonable baseline and then reasonably goals from there. Goal progress measure 2.2 is about the percent of K through 2 students performing on or above grade level in mathematics. Same thing, we need to get that end of the year. We need to have the beginning and then the end, so we know what to establish as a reasonable, because we'll know in May how many of our K through 2 students are performing on grade levels, and we'll establish reasonable baseline goals. And then 2.3 is about how the third grade students perform on the March benchmark. We usually take a comprehensive benchmark prior to start to kind of give us, the kids, remember, third graders, they haven't taken STAR yet, so they need that experience of taking an entire test, for timing purposes and things. So the goal progress measure 2.3 is about them performing on or above grade level, which is at means or masters, on the March benchmark. So we do have data for that. So this year, we had 19% of the students performing on or above. And so we have a baseline for that. So that is the math goal. That is the math goal and the math goal progress measures. And then reading is student outcome goal 3. So that is also about needs level performance on third grade reading STAR. And we have the baseline and all the goals set for that. So the goal progress measure would be 3.1 is about measuring the percent of students, third grade students reading on or above grade level, utilizing the universal screener and progress monitoring tool, which will create increase from X to 68%. That kind of aligns with our goal that we have currently in our goals. How we use Swantis and Pinnell benchmark assessment system to assess our students one-on-one and we get that data. So we'll have that for the third grade students because third grade teachers started with balanced literacy this year. They've used it beginning, middle, and then they'll use it at the end. Goal progress measure 3.2 is about the use of our Swantis and Pinnell assessments in that data, which is the same as our current goals that we have in goal progress measures. So we have the baseline from last year, which was 48%. And so you'll remember when I gave the report, we were at about 55% mid-year. So we'll see where we are again. And then goal progress measure 3.3 is also about third grade students and how they perform on that March benchmark in anticipation of the STAR test in May. And so we do have the baseline because we were able to get that from their most recent benchmark and then set those goals. Any questions that I can answer?
Any questions, board members, from the field?
Well, no, if I may, Madam President.
Yes.
I'm excited at the fact that we're expanding our focus and not just being solely focused on the masters. And I personally think that that's going to bode well for, we're going to push everything right, and it's going to happen. So I'm most excited about that, so thank you for that. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, Ms. Woods.
I'm just wondering, I know that when I was looking at each goal, we can start back with goal number 1, and then we can look at 2 and 3, but when we're talking about career military readiness, CCMR indicated we increased from 35 to 45 by August 2023. Then you look at the base each year. So goal 1 looks like we are increasing 2% annually. Is that correct? Does it need to be, I just wonder if it needs to be stated in the goal, something like the percentage of graduated students who meet at least one college career military readiness CCMR indicator will increase 2% annually from 35 to 45 by August 2020.
Yes, I know we followed up with our regional planning coaches and also Ms. Elliott, and based on their recommendations, it's not necessarily explicitly articulated annual growth. We just adjust those as we look at over the year.
Okay, not a problem. I just want to make sure that we're smart, that we were being specific and measurable. That's
We have a thumbs up from the coach.
It's okay with it, Bob? Okay, sounds great. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, Dr. Flores, we both also have
So lastly, and they are there for you as well, is we have proposed progress measures for the superintendent constraints. So we had proposed 3 constraints, and so there are there's 3 progress measures for each of those constraints. So if you'd like to take a look at them, and if you have any questions, I can respond to them.
I think you're articulating more with the rest of the
Sure. Okay, so with regard to superintendent constraint 1, superintendent shall not allow any campuses to experience more than 3 consecutive years of an F rating designation. Therefore, we propose constraint progress measure 1, the superintendent shall take any actions necessary to improve campus academic performance. Constraint progress measure 1.2, the superintendent will ensure quarterly common assessments are administered, data is disaggregated, and recorded in data meetings at the district and campus level. Constraint progress measure 1.3, the superintendent will receive quarterly status reports of on track or off track on the campus target improvement plans to meet accountability standards. Now, superintendent constraint number 2, the superintendent shall not produce community wrap-around services that would impact student outcomes based on locally funded programs in the 2018-2019 school year. Constraint progress measure 2.1, the superintendent will ensure the following programs: communities in schools and family services remain in active partnership in the 2019-2020 school year. Constraint progress measure 2.2. The superintendent shall now not allow a reduction in the number of after-school programs in elementary schools. And currently, we do have, all 9 schools have SAUs. Lastly, constraint progress measure 2.3. The superintendent shall develop 3 elementary schools in each feeder pattern as community hubs utilizing the community partner program, which was approved back, the MOU was approved with Health and Human Services back in February, to provide access to food, cash, and health care to qualifying participants. So as you recall, we're going to have, parents will have access to our database, so if they run low on benefits, they can come to one of the schools and upload and apply for additional benefits from the state.
Mr. Lynn, I have a question. Constraint progress measure 2.2, because you added on there SAU, is that limited him then to only SAU? Because there have been times where we had other programs come in to provide after-school services.
At minimum, we wanted to ensure at least SAUs. So it doesn't limit, but we wanted to at least offer one program.
So, to add, sorry, in the method of streamlining all of our operations, you're absolutely right. As part of the past, we've had YMCA, we've had After Challenge. We've gotten into agreements.
Yes, SAUs was awarded the 21st Century Grant, and so we are their partners.
So we're going to be offering SAUs to all of our.
And how long was it grant for?
This was the first year of 5 years, so we have 4 additional years.
That's reassuring.
Yes. Okay, and lastly, superintendent constraint number 3, the superintendent will not allow a reduction of general education student transportation services that would impact student attendance rates based on the 2018-2019 school year. Constraint progress measure 3.1. The superintendent will not approve less than the set number of routes based on the 2018-2019 school year, based on our current routes that are being offered this year. Constraint progress measure 3.2. The superintendent will implement a transportation marketing plan for the 2019-2020 school year. Constraint progress measure 3.3. The superintendent will not allow less student ridership based on the 2018-19 school year. And so that is the sum of superintendent constraint progress measures. Are there any questions?
Ms. Rhodes?
Thank you, Ms. Leon, for this. I'm not sure if this question is for you or Dr. Ford, whichever one can answer it, but let's go back to superintendent constraint number 1, and it's the constraint progress measure 1.3. agree. I just need some clarification on what that means, on track, off track, when it has to do with the campus target improvement plans.
May I ask that? So, with TA requires for any IR school, a target improvement plan, and so we have to do quarterly reports to the state. We have a conference call, and we have to give them updates. Are we on track, or are we off track? So our goal is to not only do that for any schools that have been rated low performing, but we're going to do that at all campuses. And so we will be doing that to give our superintendent reports on progress of the schools.
For all campuses.
For all campuses, yes, ma'am.
That's good, thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
Yeah, no, actually, I have one, Madam President.
Yes.
If you may, Mr. Dr. Flores or Mr. Leon, elaborate on transportation marketing plan for 2019-2020.
And actually, I may, would you like to answer that, or I may defer to my colleagues?
Transportation plan, the marketing piece.
The marketing plan that we were trying to consider was some type of internal marketing plan to inform our staff, which we don't necessarily do the best of jobs at right now, and then the external jobs at informing parents in the community as opposed to services. We do want, while we're expanding them, we want to inform people how we're doing it and what we currently do also. So things we're looking at are online applications, such as the find your own route to put in where your house is, and then it'll tell you where the bus is. We're also looking at a system where we can track the bus itself, so you know if it's going to be a minute late or a minute early. And then we're also looking at mass notification systems to inform people of other changes in services that will be coming up. So those are the things that we're looking at. They're all in the conceptual phase right now based on the conversations we've had as things that are of interest developed that they'd like us to do as far as improving services in the transportation department.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Okay, so my question then is, do we just approve the goals tonight?
Yeah, if you would mind approving the student outcome goals, and then the superintendent constraints. And I also know that you folks, based on the board workshop that we had, came to a consensus on the board constraints themselves too. And I know that that's the last meeting that was included in the setup there. And so if you could approve the constraints and the student outcome goals at this point, and we will bring the goal progress measures once we add student health wellness component.
I have a question, of course. Would you check the calendar, because obviously this is going to have to be done in a workshop. But maybe we could have a workshop when we finish with the progress measures so that we can review them as a full board at a workshop. And then, so the next available board meeting, we can have those approved as well. So everything is done, because we need to have everything done in order before your evaluation comes in.
Right.
So, just we can check the calendar and then run some dates around the board, email them to see what their availability is. So we can have, and I don't think it would require 3 hours or so.
Right.
So it just depends. Mr. Vada, I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Vada, we can do the goal progress measures and the new goal at a workshop, right? And since it's the full board, that would not satisfy, because right now we're not satisfying everything. We're only doing the goals and the constraints.
Correct.
So by approving this item, will we satisfy our need in going that step that we need to be at?
So here's the good news. By approving just the goals and the constraints that you're proposing, you will gain points. So remember the last time we did this, we were at 0.
Right.
So just doing that, you're already going to jump. So it makes sense to then potentially do the goal progress measures with some more certainty and clarity, because you're going to have the additional ones, as well as the potential fourth goal, and that will make you even more points.
Dr. Flores, I know that you're waiting for your baseline on some of these.
Yes.
when do you anticipate getting that baseline? Because you can't really review them with you until you have a baseline.
I know that's Ms. Shields.
Thanks,
She
Scott.
does that.
On the reading data, the third grade, they cannot assess their students with a benchmark assessment system until the start. They can't take time to do that because it's an individual student test. So that will be probably at the very end of school before we get that baseline. The rest of them will be done by mid-May.
So like the end of May? This is an idea, I know that's before we do this workshop and do the slides. Okay, all right, board members, then, do I hear a motion on item number 4? I have a motion by Mr. Ibarra to approve the,
Right now, it'd be just the goals and the constraints for the board and the superintendent.
okay, so approve the student outcome goals and superintendent constraint measures.
And board.
I'm sorry, and board constraint measures as well.
I second that.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Ibarra, there's a second by Ms. Flores, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes, thank you. Okay. Now we'll go, number 2 is discussion and possible action to approve the quarterly progress tracker. Okay, board members, printed out all of our quarterly progress trackers. You see those scan and reviewing it. The first tracker was the one that was done the last quarter. But that has all changed now because we have different grades on that. So going to January, which is our regular meeting, according to the tracker, the board at that meeting had a total vision focus minutes of 24%. And then our total minutes, including the school post session, was 100%. So we have 106 minutes of other 76%. And so I guess the main focus is the vision focus minutes, and that was 24%. And then on February 24th, we had a meeting in Shepherd Middle School. It was a special call meeting, and it was a workshop where actually our total vision focus minute at that meeting was 96%. So I think that was good. That made up for the minutes that we were not able to get in the first meeting. And then on February 13th, there was a special call meeting. It was the formation of the budget committee. And at that meeting, there was 0 total vision focus minutes at that particular meeting. And then February 19th, also a special call meeting on the budget committee meeting. And that was primarily the budget committee, so there was a 0% vision focus minutes on that one. And then the last one was the February 20th, 2019 regular board meeting. And at that meeting, we did have total vision focus minutes of 30%. So I think there's some of the meetings that we have met our goal, and there's some where we're lacking. And there's no doubt that we're lacking meeting the master's level, which is something that we were trying to achieve. But I did ask Mr. Barra, and I'm going to ask him to come up, if he could, to give his opinion on that. And Dee, please. So, Mr. Barra, can you give us an idea of, based on what you've heard and the time that we've spent on this, where are we now?
So if you look at Vision 1, which is up on the screen there, what we look at on this one, because remember when you look at the light blue, it says the board works collaboratively with the superintendent to develop vision student outcome goals. We just approved your student outcome goals. So as you look at that, and just remind the board, for example, under Means Focus, they talked about the root cause analysis. You received a very thorough root cause analysis at the meeting on the 11th of April, when staff presented how they were determining goals. So as a result of that, we certainly see that you're at least the needs focus on this particular one.
So that would take us,
You'd be at a 12. Now again, that's unless you have other evidence or based on what you have established in terms of the goals you just adopted, you have the SMART goals, you have the baseline, all the things that are listed under approaches, and we would see that definitely at least 12.
Any questions for Mr. Vada on that? Okay. All right, the next one is Division 2. Mr. Vada?
So this is looking at your goal progress measures. So in this particular one, you've seen the framework, you've seen the model of what the staff is recommending. You just haven't received all of the X to Y by Z. So again, looking at this, what we'd say to you is you're probably still at the zero. But again, the good news is based on the next workshop that you're proposing, you should easily be able to move again, probably up to the needs focus once you approve those.
Okay. So our target, our next quarter target then on Division 2 would be needs focus of 12. Right? And going back to Division 1, our next quarter target then should be 15. Is that a good one on that? Okay. All right. And then now on Division 3.
So on the constraints, again, you didn't adopt those, correct? It was just the constraints, not the constraint progress measures, I'm so sorry. Okay, so, yes, this one we'd probably tell you a 3 versus a 9, and here's the difference. You do have the constraints. You started, I believe, last month, possibly, but definitely this month, where you are evaluating yourself against a constraint each month. So that hasn't been done consistently. So for us, that's the difference between a 3 and a 9. Again, this is the board self-evaluation. This is just our opinion in terms of what we're seeing. We'd say to you, we would certainly support a 3 and see a 9 as a very possible target if you continue to evaluating constraints.
Board members, is there disagreement or agreement?
I disagree. I have a question for Mr. Vada. Mr. Vada, on the 9, where it says self-evaluate against one of them each month, since we tweak the goals and we may be adding a goal soon, should we be amending our 3-year monitoring calendar?
Yes, so we're talking, so this was about constraints, I just want to clarify, we're talking about constraints or goals.
That's right, it's constraints,
Okay.
sorry.
So
Yes.
either way, whether it's constraint or goal, yes, you should adjust the monitoring calendar to reflect that.
To reflect that, in order to achieve the 9.
Yes.
Yes.
To reflect both the goals and
Constraints, exactly.
From board and superintendent.
And it makes sense just logistically, once you adopt your goal progress measures, then you have everything. You have your goals, your goal progress measures, you have your constraints, you have your constraint progress measures. You can make any adjustments in between as you're building these, but still it makes sense that once you have all those elements, then you bring that back to the board.
I have a question on the monitoring calendar. Of course, that would be our target, then would be for a 9 for the next time. On the monitoring calendar, is that something that should be done between the superintendent and I, or the full board discusses a monitoring calendar and then revises it based on the goals we may have?
So actually, the staff, the superintendent's going to bring forward a monitoring calendar for you to look at and discuss. Obviously, it's the board particular, it's look at this from a constraint perspective. For the board's constraints, you're going to determine which ones you're going to evaluate each month. That makes more sense for you to weigh in on that. Staff would make recommendations in terms of like goal progress measures because they know that that is available. And you heard Michelle's talk about it. This is what we know, this is what we know, and it makes sense and then we put it in the next closest month, which there may not be put into, we have all the data there. But they should bring it forward in a recommendation to the superintendent.
So then it's safe to say that we're at a 3 on the current quarter, and our next quarter target is a 9. Okay. Okay, the next one is Division 4.
So the straight progress measures.
Yes.
And again, we're going to be back, but is same place here in terms of getting the proper bills, correct? Okay.
So it's still be 0.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But you have Michelle, you've seen them, you have an idea of what those are going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't get credit for beginning.
Yes, you do, it just kind of have to move. Because here's the truth, I mean, you really have the groundwork in place. So, let's just say there's a bloom on the tree, but you don't have a fruit yet. It's coming.
Okay.
One thing we would suggest to you though is constraint progress measures for the board. Okay? And that is something you can add to the workshop.
Okay.
Because it's really not staff's position to come back to you about constraint progress measures. You guys need to, this is what's important to you, you need to establish those standards for yourself. And we can certainly assist you in the workshop.
And those would fall under the master's focus column for constraint progress measures.
Okay, so under accountability then, we're still at 0.
Sorry.
Did I miss one? Okay, we're 0 at 4. On vision number 4 is 0.
Okay.
And then, so our target then for number 4 should be 0.5 maybe? Or could it be a 1?
It could possibly be more regularly
4? Okay.
As the target.
as the target.
Okay. So that would be a 4 is our target. Does everybody need to ring that on the 4?
So depending on the quality of the facilitators of the workshop, I think it could possibly. No pressure.
That's question.
God, that's, what evidence do we have?
Okay, so moving on to the accountability one.
So I think here we need to look at, are you receiving monitoring reports? And the answer to that question is yes. So I think at least the last, there will be 3 meetings that I know I've attended, there have been reports due about progress. So certainly with at least the CO monitoring.
A 1?
Yes.
Board members, are you all in agreement with a 1? Okay. A 1? Okay, so if we're at a 1, then we should, our target for the next quarter is maybe a 4. You think we can do there?
Yes.
So the next quarter target will be a 4. Okay, now moving on to accountability number 2. Board measures and communicates that does not interfere in any progress for division and student outcome goals.
So again, self-evaluation, the board said this is the second one. Okay, so clearly you're all doing that. Part of this, there's some kind of like a buy, if you will, in terms of, because it has a midway degree, it's a midway degree, so it doesn't necessarily apply. So what we would say to you is, based on the evidence that we've seen, it's definitely preparing to focus. So apply here. The difference in, I think the target for one is that I'm not sure we've really been tracking the monetary value of staff time, preparing for the board meetings, following up, etc. And that's into the third paragraph of your approach is focus. So again, working with staff potentially to bring that information to the board to you. And I think that's certainly something that we can make forward in this work.
So, do we feel agree with the 0.5?
So when you're saying that we fulfill all of that that's under 0.5, we've done the most recent superintendent evaluation that took place no more than 12 months ago?
Because he hasn't been here 12 months, that to me is, you would be not earning it if we had a 12-month period and not done it. By virtue of the fact of not having 12 months, doesn't seem like we should penalize either the board or the process because it's his fault he hasn't been here 12 months. Or it's your fault that you haven't evaluated. So that would be forcing it to do.
So has the board done a self-evaluation?
So this part of this is considered the self-evaluation.
Okay.
And you've done it at least, this is the second and possibly third time.
Okay.
The second time certainly with this board. budget that in board.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, so it's 8.5.
So in agreement with 0.5, and then our target would be 1. Okay, and now we're going to structure.
So, as well as you read to us at the beginning, whether you're tracking the minutes, so that's the preparing the focus is happening and is actually attached to your board minutes, I believe is your approving it month. Here's going to be the challenge, so definitely a once. The challenge and approaches for the piece that is keeping you, for the challenge is the back tab. Pull no more than 25% consent. And that's happened a couple of times where you fall below 75%. So that's what's keeping you from earning.
So 4. So our target should be a 4.
And again, it depends on the number of items, that's the thing. Coming out of the consent.
Out of your pool.
Right. Okay, we're going to the agreement at a 1, and then our goal is a 4. Okay, moving on to advocacy. Both notes division.
The question here is going to be about the two-way communication. Whether the board may have the opportunity to hear from folks, hear from them, I think it's the two-way conversation that in preparing to focus is not working.
And it's something we might be addressing in an item that was focused based on this regarding board-led committee, board meetings. And so maybe we can address it, so that will help us in this.
On the next
So
round.
the next round. So do we keep this as 0, or, and then our target would be a 1?
It's something you can also add to the workshop. We discuss that.
Are we in agreement with a 0 and with the target as a 1? Okay. Okay. And it's advocacy, the last one is the unity.
So a question that we had here, we're assuming we don't have the information on this board, is under preparing to focus, that ethics and conflict of interest statements. We're assuming that's all done, just one public data is part of that. And is that done in time with your scoring of what? So that's just a question.
Right. Yes, I think that's something that the new board members, that's something that they get.
Right. So, I mean,
In fact, we all do.
yes, that's because we want it to switch over. Is this something we don't have the evidence for? I think the other thing in preparing focus is you look at the blurb and it says all members agree that if the board has committees, their role is only to advise the board, not to advise staff. So our question then is, it's not our opinion, it's back to you individually, how do you feel about that? Is that, it's almost like the question you asked for monitoring earlier about the constraints. It's actually the same, you're gonna have to rate yourselves on this one, okay, in terms of how you feel about your committees. That have they been just to advise or the board, or have they been to advise staff? Rate yourselves on that. Or we take every, because the way it says all members agree. But we all agree that's the case, then you're at the 1. If you don't, then you're back.
It's back at the 0. It started at 0. The board members, is there any input on this item? 0? Is there an agreement? 0? Okay, so if we're at a 0, then our target for the next quarter should be a 1. Okay, so I think that concludes our tracker, and I think Michelle's going to give us the total.
17.5.
I'm sorry,
17.5.
17.5. And then our goals, our targets for the next quarter? 51. We have a long way to go.
And you've done a lot.
And remember, you started
At 0,
And then some of that work is you've already been, you've seen previews of some of that work, so some of these will grow.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you you. Board members, are there any other comments on our tracker and our evaluation for tonight? Okay. I think we have a lot of work to do on that. Okay, that concludes item number 2. Item number 3 is discussion and action to approve the live streaming of all budget committee meetings. Dr. Flores?
I think this was an item submitted by Mr. Eli.
Ms. Flores, what? Mr. Yata?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I submit.
Okay, all right. Board members, go back to the number 2. Do I hear a motion to approve the following by Ms. Stratton?
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Flores, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Martinez, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, by Ms. Ibarra. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now item number 3 is a discussion and possible action to approve the live streaming of all budget committee meetings. Mr. Ibarra.
Yes, ma'am. I put this on the agenda to discuss possibility of live streaming all budget committee meetings. We as a board adopted to expand the scope of the oversight of the budget committee at the last meeting. So I believe we need to live stream the budget committee meeting so as to be transparent to our community. And I think decisions and voting are taking place at these meetings. And it's always in the best interest of the board to make it as accessible to the public as possible. I think at one point it may have been an advisory role, but I think it turned into a decision-making and voting committee pretty quick, where we're actually taking action, directing staff. So with that taken into consideration, I'm asking if we can live stream all future meetings from this point.
Do you want to make a motion, Mr. Ibarra?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the live streaming of all budget committee meetings.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Ibarra, seconded by Mr. Flores. All in favor? I'm sorry. Seconded by Mrs. Flores. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, last item is number 4.
Well, I think we'll make life easier. Should I bring back? Was this just the budget committee? This operates as district policy. Should we amend it to put all committees?
I'm sorry. You're saying in this motion?
Yeah. The question is that if that's a policy, if that's a vote, it's going to get lost. I need to put it in a policy. If I put it in a policy, then I'll put it in a policy about committees. Is the intent, would it be, if I do that, would it be all committees or would it be just a vote?
I think it depends on the committees, whether they're advisory or whether there's going to be business conducted and there's a vote taken. And then there's an interest from the community on that particular topic.
Technically, under the district policy, this committee is in fact advisory. That's an advisory committee to the board. So I'm just trying, not trying to get into the argument. I'm trying to memorialize this so that it is kept.
I would say that, I would agree and say that, I think for the spirit, for the sake of transparency and in the spirit of, making everything available to the public, I say live stream everything. That's a practice of the board and we should continue it, and we should live stream everything.
All committee meetings.
Yeah, what I would do then, in light of that, is amend the policy to put in that provision in the policy, et cetera.
So Mr. O'Hanlon, does Mr. Ibarra to amend his motion?
I think it just did.
Do we need to table it and make it a board policy, or do we go ahead and take this vote?
Well, I've got to bring the board policy back. I'm just trying to figure out how to draft it. I'll bring a board policy back. Right now, it's the budget committee, but I'll bring a board policy back to be consistent with what y'all just said. Get that way it will be in the public policies and people.
And so I'll amend the motion to say, do I amend the motion now, or do I just change it? I mean, we haven't or we didn't get a
Yeah,
second?
we did.
So I'll amend the motion to include all committee.
Oh,
Can I make a clarification that it's all board-related committees, right? There's plenty of committees that we have.
It'll be the committees that are created under B, D, B, or whatever that, in that policy that are created. Yeah, but the ones that are the board-created advisory committees, okay?
9 seconds.
okay, all board created advisory committees. That's all right? Okay.
All right. Do we want to reference that policy?
We'll bring that back at the next adoption.
Do we need to reference a policy on the motion?
Yeah, I'll find it, we'll adopt the policy next time.
Okay, the motion has been amended by Mr. Ibarra, and it's to approve the live streaming of all board-created advisory committee meetings. And Ms. Flores seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the last item on the agenda is discussion and possible action to schedule board-led community meetings before the end of the 2018-19 school year in accordance with the Lone Star Governance Framework. Dr. Flores?
This is Ms. Flores.
Ms. Flores?
Yes, thank you. And this falls in line with what we've been talking when we did our evaluation. So we want to get to the next level. I feel that we need to, the last board-led community meeting was held in November. And on the advocacy piece of the board community vision, if we want to get to number 9, who needs focus, it says the board has hosted and the board members have led or co-led at least one training on the Lone Star governance for its community during the previous 6-month period. And then meetings to accomplish this objective do not have to be counted as part of the total of board authorized public meetings or minutes, which means that this is separate from our regular meetings or special call meetings. But it's important that we do take our vision, our goals, our progress measures and constraints to the community for, as it says here, we're never going to get to vision, to the master's focus for vision 1, 2, 3, and 4 under goals and constraints. That students, families, teachers, and community members who are involved in the vision and goals and constraints development process in such a manner that there is a broad community acceptance of the board's vision, goals, and constraints. So you mentioned that there would be a workshop coming up sometime next month, and that's really what I wanted to get this going so that we can have our next board-led community meeting either from the end of May or June or whatever the case may be. I'm not expecting more than one of those by the end of the school year. But then maybe we can also have a discussion among all 7 of us as to when we would like to go out there and lead these board-led meetings.
I have a question for Mr. Ibarra. Can we explain? Mr. Ibarra, when we did this last year, we did 3. I mean, that was, it was good. We went to all our campuses. But is that, because Mrs. Porter's recommendation is we do it within the year's time? So if we do 1 for this year, does that satisfy within the year? Is there a requirement that we must do 3?
So actually, the requirement is 1 every 6 months. And so we've done 1 in November. So technically, we have probably to the end of May to consider another. The other possibility is, honestly, you already have a show. The November show because that particular one was on Lone Star governance. So this community meeting that you're referencing is what it has to do with Lone Star governance. Remember, you conducted other community meetings that they dealt with accountability, with finance. So those technically were committee meetings, but not as specific and targeted as Lone Star Governance.
So it has to be on Lone Star Government.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, we discussed our vision, accountability, all of these things that we've been evaluating ourselves.
It actually would be timely because you've just made some changes to your goals. So it would be time to update the community. So again, you have a shell that you can use to then just update with the most recent decisions on the product work.
Maybe that's something, Dr. Flores, another thing for you, Mr. Calendar, maybe as soon as possible in June. I know that May, the end of May is the 6th month, but if we get a week later, is that a problem? If we could have it like the first week of June or something?
It's your decision. So I mean, if this is what the calendar is for you, the intent is to involve the community. So clearly, I mean, you don't want to do it the week of July 4th when you know nobody's going to be around. I mean, that doesn't
We're
work.
going to meet the requirement,
Right.
even if we have it in June, then
Right.
twice a year. So June, is that Mr. Lawrence, June, okay?
The only concern that I have with that is that we made a decision to open schools, and we have not taken that out to the community as far as to get two-way communication on that piece. So like, for us to go out and ask for feedback, and then get feedback and be able to answer questions on the reopening of school is something that I would like to have done before this school year is up, because we're going into the next school year with changes, and any community feedback would be better addressed before this year. So
And I think what we were talking about is complying with our,
LSG.
yeah, exactly. So
I get
we
it.
must have that meeting on LSU, so that has to happen. So,
It could be under LSG, and I think we could figure out which division or whatever that opening schools would go under, it would still qualify.
and maybe at that meeting, under LSG, somehow we fit in a discussion with the community, with a question and answer discussion. But it's led by the board.
That is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
So
led
you-
by the board.
You have set actually a precedent based on the last three where there was cooperation and collaboration with the administration. It was exactly what that was.
Right.
Led by the board, admins, they're like to give, if there's financial or anything that we don't really know anything about, superintendent was there, plus his staff, just in case, there's questions.
And maybe working with you, Mr. Robert and Dee, and setting up some sort of agenda for that meeting, so that we can meet the requirements for Lone Star Governance and incorporate any community feedback on the changes that are happening.
Absolutely.
All right, so are we in agreement in June? Everyone's okay? Okay, good. So do I hear a motion then?
I move that, I move that the board hold a board-led community meeting in June in accordance with the Lone Star Governance Framework.
I have a motion by Ms. Flores, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ibarra, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Do I hear a motion for adjournment? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned, and the time is 9:09.